Welcome everybody, and we are live. Oh, let me see. Oh, darn it! I didn't update the stream info properly. Well, I did, but it didn't. Oh, uh, looks like the wife did, but it still went live with the Jags. What we were doing last night. So, uh, for all of you that are tuning in for the first time, I am David. I'm your Chief Librarian here at Alexandria RPG. I'm not a real librarian. I just LARP as one. I play one here on the internet. And where did my phone go? Oh, lost my phone. It's where I get when people type in the chat questions. I'll get them pop up on my phone. And with us today is Timothy Grant with Ninth Level Games. And we're going to have a nice chat about role playing games and silly stuff. And hopefully, maybe we'll talk about a game that he and Ninth Level Games has up on Kickstarter right now. What would you like
Yeah.
to tell us about you really quick, Timothy?
So I am based out of New Jersey, and I am a program director at Gaming Approaches Towards Education, which is a therapeutic practice that uses gaming in the practice for group therapy, individual, and other means of therapy. And I am also a game designer.
Well, I didn't know about the therapy stuff. That is awesome. We
Yeah.
really try to talk to people about how they can use games with in different settings, like working with like at-risk teens.
Yeah.
Oh, getting told your volume's really high. Let's see if that helps. But no, we love because role playing games are such a great tool to work with a variety of different. Because I know we know people that are using them to work with, kids with autism, PTSD. I've done gaming with veterans with PTSD, gaming with at risk teens to kind of give them an outlet to get away from all the things that they're not necessarily doing right in life, making the wrong
Yeah.
choices.
Yeah. We actually, when we first started the business and opened the practice, we uh, we're predominantly working with kids on the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
and we were working in the home, and we are doing a community piece where they would come to the office and we would play games together to help with social anxieties and things like that, and communication. And we talked about this a lot while going to like game design conventions and stuff. And we met Heather and Chris there, and we just started getting to talk about things, talking about all the things that we do in the office and how we use games, how we use some of their games. And during the pandemic, as soon as it started, we had just moved to a new location for our office, and things started getting a little weird with like how we were going to be able to run groups still. So everything kind of changed in that moment for us. And Heather had reached out to us and was like, "Hey, you know how we always keep talking about like making a game together to be used in therapy? Do you want to do that now?" And it kind of just started in that way, and it was really interesting to see the growth of all of this, having worked with kids for a while, and then now I'm playing other people's games, and now I'm working with kids and playing my game, like it's really interesting.
That's awesome. So, what is the game that you have on Kickstarter right now?
We have Venture Society. It is a nonviolent um heartwarming game about animals who live in a world where there is no more war. Um, all the regions of the world were at war at one point until the biggest heroes of that time all decided to put down their weapons and try to create a more peaceful environment for everyone. And the game is about these animals who created the Venture Society, and its point is to just make a better world and not use violence to do that.
And so it's based on the polymorph system from that the ninth level games put out, correct?
Yes. So the real interesting thing about this too is we we're using the polymorph system, and I was talking with Chris O'Neill about, you know, playtesting mazes when mazes was first coming out, and I said, "Oh, like this is really cool. Like I would really like to make a game like for kids." But we have a lot of kids that are either nonverbal or like selectively mute, and like I want to be able to use something like this with them. I said, "What? Like it'd be really cool if you had like a deck of cards that could be um like a pictorial system or something for people that are selective mute or low verbal, and they could be like, oh, I want to touch a card here, let's run, jump over this bridge like to the other side." And it got us thinking about things like that, like how can we make the game more accessible, especially with younger kids.
Yeah. Uh,
We we we're basing it off of the polymorph system. So we had changed a few stats within the game to make it easier, and we decided to take out the D4 because the D4 is so hard to pick up. And we had kids that had like dexterity issues, like trying to pick things up. So we were like, we don't really need the D4. Let's take it out. Let's make it easier for kids to play. And we changed the the stats to be more focused on things that wouldn't give you the idea of, hey, I want to do something violent or destructive. You know, like in most role-playing games, you have a stat that's like might or fighting or something like that. And this, we decided that our stats are help, focus, move, words, and heart. And you use these stats to pretty much try to make the world better.
well, that is always a good goal. I like that. Um, and that's it's such a neat take because um, everybody has attempted to modify a game that is more focused on combat. So I mean, people that try to take D&D, which D&D is a giant chunk of that really is combat. So if you take
Yeah,
that out, well, you've lost most of the mechanics already. So it's smarter to go with a system that well, because polymorph, they've put out all kinds of fun, silly things with the polymorph
yeah,
system already. So it's not that hard to go, oh, hey, you already kind of have low combat or no combat systems that you're working with in this. So let's start from there.
yeah. It's funny because when I think of D&D, I think of a combat simulator because that's pretty much like what you're doing in the game.
Mm-hmm. And that's where it started from. Because the D&D in the '70s, it came from basically they were playing tabletop war games. They go, hey,
Yeah,
instead of playing a war, let's play a squad, and then oh, you're my squad versus your squad. How about we all just become members of the squad,
it,
and then we play against the world? And it's like you can see where the transition goes, but at the core, still to this day, 40, pushing 50 years later, um, you know, combat the war game is still the core of that game.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I started finding playing games that were uh, focused on combat made it more difficult for me to run a group that is working on specific goals, to not have them just be trying to hack and slash their way through the problem. And I really saw that there was a need to have more games that had less of that focus.
Yeah, and I mean, especially for your purpose, you're working with kids that's not, um, it may not be, healthy for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not healthy, especially if you have like an obsession with something like that, right? And like you are now, if you're practicing doing that and your pretend in your play, that might be something that translates back into like your everyday life.
Yeah, and I like the direction you're going. This is actually really cool. So what are some like other cool, unique things that you guys have put together for Venture Society?
So in Venture Society, we wanted to make a point to use a combination of a few things. So I started into social emotional learning, and I was really interested in what they were doing with that in the schools, and I wanted to try and bring that into our practice. And uh, my business partner Brian, he is a registered play therapy supervisor, and he was going for that training while I was looking into the social emotional learning stuff. And we started seeing there was a lot of overlap between what play therapy calls the powers of play and social emotional learning. And we wanted to put that into venture society somehow. Like, how could we uh, have something that a therapist could use as like a measurable outcome to track progress with someone they're working with? So, uh, what we did was we took we said the venture society is all about making like peace and making things better. But how do they do that, right? Um, so we decided to use the four areas that we consider the four pillars of the venture society's code, and those are personal strengths, emotional wellness, social awareness, and communication. And off of those, like if you're, let's say you're trying to empathize with someone, then you are working towards social awareness. And if I think you did a really good job at like trying to do that or show that in a way, you'll be rewarded venture points. And what venture points do is they're like a celebration of doing good in the world and giving you an opportunity later to add to the world itself. Let's say you met an NPC along the way and you wanted to bring them into the place, the town that you live in. You can bring them into this area or add more things to the map um, along the way by spending these points or upgrading yourself.
Neat. Um, you talked about the nonverbal cards. Can you talk about those a little more? Because I find that
Yeah,
really intriguing.
yeah. So the cards themselves, we're calling it more like an action deck, and the the cards are more like a pictorial system, which is pictures that illustrate an action or something that you can do. So this way, it's a form of communication outside of being verbal. So the cards themselves are meant to so that anyone can play the game, right? Uh, if you can use your phone as text to speech or anything like that. Though those are the things that we wanted to be present in the game, not just in the not just by having it as the action cards or anything like that, but we wanted to be present in the words and in the text of the book and also in the images. We wanted that inclusion of having like anyone who can play it to feel comfortable playing it. And it's okay to play these games with whoever. So normalizing the idea of communicating in that way, we wanted it to be present in the game, and that's why we created these cards and have them an option so that it is okay for like if I'm having a bad day and I like maybe I just don't want to communicate as much, right? I can just point to these cards and it can help me along the way, or maybe I don't know how to explain something right, and these cards will help me do that, especially with younger kids. Like playing with like 5 or up, like it's sometimes it's hard because they don't understand how to explain something in a certain way, but if they showed you a picture, it might help get that point across for them.
Yeah, and I love the idea behind all this because it is pretty neat. Somebody made a statement in the chat, said game is almost like the He-Man cartoon approach where He-Man never once uses his sword. Uh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like he gets the power, then puts the sword away, and
And then yeah, and then he's just the prince again.
yeah. No, so there's a lot of little things looking through the Kickstarter that I think is cool. Um, I also like the idea behind the adventure flip book.
Yeah. Yeah, that the flip book was a really interesting idea because one of the things we wanted to do was we wanted to have some type of GM screen, and we're still going to have a GM screen. I most likely, and but this was like an adaptation to that. So like we always like we have pictures that we want to show our players all the time, and our thought process was this: having a picture on one side and all the information for the adventure on the other. So this way, as you're going through the adventure, you can flip the next page to the next section of the adventure, and the other side will be the picture of what you want your players to see. So I thought it would be a really fun way to kind of minimize space on a table and also give you everything you need to be able to run and play and show like stuff to the players.
I love the idea because it's something that I've seen in some mid '90s games did something similar, but nobody's doing anything like it now, and it's something. It could be a great tool, and if you can showcase, especially you're working with younger kids or kids on the spectrum, it is a really good tool to give that visual cue, and anybody sitting down to run the game has all the notes right there. It's such a brilliant little idea.
Yeah, you don't think about it a lot of times, but when you're sitting at a table with a bunch of people and especially kids who are active and they're going to get up and they're going to move around, you don't want to have a bunch of stuff on the table that's going to be distracting and things that could like help them lose focus, right?
Yeah, exactly. As someone with ADHD, I know about getting distracted easy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
suffer from the ooh shiny squirrel.
I see it all the time, and that's something interesting too about that what we inserted into the game as well. We decided that we want to give breaks in the middle of the game, and the way we did that was we included activities in the adventures, and one of them might be like depending on your group, if people need to get up and you're seeing that they're like they're active, they need to go get some energy out, have them go get something in the house that represents them or something that they can use to help them in this next part of the adventure. Just getting the energy flowing, having different little mini games like puzzles to do in the middle of it, things that create imagination, get you moving and bring you back to the table.
Nice. And it's like taking a little bit of the live action role play. and mixing it in.
Yeah.
And which it's funny because I can sit down with a group of normal, because I'm far from normal, normal gamers to play an RPG for 3-4 hours. Going too much longer than that is, you've got to be an extra special group of gamers to go too much longer than that. But I see people
Yeah.
that do live action role play that will do 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a weekend or more, and just go the whole time because they're immersed in interacting in the game in a different way than you do in a standard role play game. So I like it because you're incorporating those bits that are gonna keep those kids active and wanting to come back and be part of it.
Yeah. And one of the ways we learn as kids is through our play. And if we can create a safe space and a space for them to do the things they need to do, if they need to let that energy out, or if they need to just get the wiggles out, like just to be able to do that and not get in trouble because they're doing that, and that sometimes is a thing that is a deterrent for a kid if they can't feel comfortable doing the thing and feel like themselves, then they may not want to do it. Like I don't want to go to school because um they don't let me get up and like get the energy out. I have too much energy and I need to let it go. I don't want to go to this class because my teacher doesn't let me do that. But if you give them the space and you give them the time to be able to do those things, it's more reassuring for them to want to learn and want to do something.
What was the first game that you ever played RPG wise?
First game I've ever played. That's a tough one to think about. Uh, I guess it is Dungeons and Dragons. 13-year-old me in the attic. My buddy says, "Hey, we're gonna go play a game," and grabs a few of us, and we go upstairs, and he breaks out this red box and drops it on a table, and we're like, "What's this?" It's Dungeons and Dragons. I said, "All right, let's play it." Whatever. He opens up the box, and the box was already used. So right there, I'm like, is this new? Like, he's like, no, my brother gave it to me. It was missing half the components for the game, so we didn't really understand the rules, and it was for me, it was the thing that made me fall in love with the game. Is because I didn't know all the rules and I didn't need all the rules. I can still just role play and just have fun embodying these characters and having a good time with my friends. Uh, that's also the time where my GMing career started. Uh, my friend started running the game, and after that first session, said to me, "I don't think I want to do this anymore. I don't like it."
You're
And
like,
I said,
but I do.
"What? You introduced this thing to me that I absolutely never knew that I needed in my life, and then now you're telling me that no, we're not doing this anymore." So I said, "How about you give me the box and I'll read everything and I'll run it. Would you play then?" And then we ended up playing for many years.
Nice. Yeah, and some people, I run into people all the time like, oh, I want to play, but they're just not GMs.
Yeah,
Not everybody is a GM.
yeah,
And it's good when people discover that fairly quickly. Like, hey, I'm just this isn't my bag. And I do encourage some of them to go back later and like, hey, give it a try again after you've played a while. But it's definitely not for everybody.
it isn't for everyone, and that's a quick thing I want to touch on is we knew that going ahead in venture society that we're going to be trying to market this towards like educators and parents and therapists that may have no idea what this is or how to do it. So we made sure to put tips throughout the book of how to run a game and what to do in a situation that could come up at like a table.
Awesome. Yeah, because I we have spent a lot of time trying to get the idea out there, and I'm finding that there are more therapists and counselors and psychiatrists, psychologists that are willing to try it because using games has been a thing for ages, but using role playing games is fairly new. I love that. I think it was 2018. Somebody bought a ticket off a psychiatrist bought a ticket off of a scalper to come in and talk to me about about games. He was like, I really want to understand this. He goes, people told me all about it, and then somebody said that you talk to people about this, and I was like, I don't know your end of it at all. I was like, I can, I gave him some contact info for people in the industry, well, in his industry that are using games, and then, talked to him about games, and kind of sat him down, and he actually ended up playing in a couple one shots that day, and then went home and seemed very happy. So fingers crossed, he is using role playing games especially for the people that it'll fit, because it's not necessarily a fit for everybody either.
No, it's definitely not. And that, like, our practice is like kind of built with that in mind, but that's not the only way we do therapy. Like, we have traditional talk therapy as well because it
Yeah.
isn't for everyone. It is the people that it is for, it really clicks for them and it
Hmm.
really helps. But the ones that it doesn't, like, would be a really bad idea to even try because you would probably get nowhere with it.
Yeah. And the gaming I've done with veterans, the ones that role playing has worked well for, man, it's clicked, and they love it.
Yeah.
They use it as an outlet or as a way to just move forward. And others like, nope, nope, this isn't my thing. They've tried, and they're like, one I knew was having some issues, and ultimately he played. He goes, hey, I think I'm developing PTSD from the game, and I just wanted to go, no, you had it. We all knew.
Yeah.
And he ended up going getting help because of playing a couple games with us. But he's like, I never want to play role playing games again. He goes, it just kind of puts me into a bad place. And I was like, you know what? I'm glad that you're getting help. I'm sad that you're not going to play role playing games again, but I'm happy that you realized that it was putting you in a bad place.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's real interesting because I this is the second time I've heard of people using role playing games like with people who have PTSD, like veterans and stuff. And the first time I heard it was a guy that works with I believe it's Catalyst, the guys who make Shadowrun.
mhm.
Um, they one of the writers is a veteran, and he was telling me a story about how he's been running a game for, like, I don't even know how long now, probably like well over 10 years with a group of veterans, and their work, like the play that they do is like their therapy session, and sometimes they break down and cry about things and talk about things during that session that, like, they probably wouldn't get from like a therapy session. And I don't think role-playing games themselves are therapy, right? I do think they are therapeutic in a way, though. And I think there needs to be a clear distinction between the two, especially with this work.
Yeah, someone in chat said Randall Bills is they believe who you're talking about,
Thank you.
and yeah, and I've met Randall a few times, and good guy. One of my favorite stories. Now I didn't game with the guy. He was somebody that I had served with many years prior, and then he had like several fairly close together combat deployments and wasn't doing well, was starting to get in trouble. And, I said, hey, I kept trying to suggest go get help. And, there's a lot of stigma to getting help in the military because people still think that, oh, you'll lose your security clearance and stuff like that, which is not true.
Yeah.
You're more likely, if you don't get help and you get in trouble, to lose your security clearance than you are if you go get
Yeah.
help. And so I stopped kind of pushing him towards getting help because that was pushing him away, and I kept saying, hey, I know some people that role play out in that area. Why don't you hook up with them and play? And then after like the third time, because he would be like, oh God, why? I don't want to play a role playing game. And then he finally went and played, and just very angry person ends up rolling a barbarian and starts realizing that he's not doing right. He goes gets help. His command sees that he's now voluntarily go getting help. He's starting to do better. They make a bunch of the stuff that would be really bad for his career. They make it all go away paperwork wise, and it's funny because he still plays. He plays D&D, and his coping mechanism. So the old count to 10. Well, his
Hmm.
is he says, I stop and think. He goes, what would my barbarian do? And
Yes, I
I
love
can't do
that.
that. And he just for him, it's that moment to step back, think about what's going on, and take himself out of the situation so that he can gather his proper self up versus his angry self,
Yeah,
and
and
it's such a
I really,
fun
yeah,
coping technique.
I love that because that's the idea behind it. We can step outside of ourselves and practice things that we may feel uncomfortable doing in our
Hmm.
own skin. And slowly, in slow increments, getting there, building up to a point where now I feel strong enough or more positive about trying to do this in real life. Even
Yeah.
if it's like communicating with people, right? If you
Hmm.
have social anxiety, it's like crippling. Um, and going to talk to someone new, like, physically hurts to do. Uh, Doing this, like practicing in a role playing game in a small group
Yeah.
and a safe place makes it easier for you to practice doing that.
Yeah, it allows you to figure out. And when I talk to people about working with at-risk teens, I was like, what do we do in role-playing games? We learn social skills. We learn or we learn or practice social skills, communication, teamwork, problem solving,
Yep.
critical thinking, all the things we're actually pretty bad at teaching kids nowadays,
Yeah. Yeah.
and why they're getting in trouble. So if we can do all that with a game, and they don't realize we're doing it. And I now that things are kind of getting back to normal, I want to try to follow back to the path I was doing before things went nuts. I would love to figure out how to get into prisons so that we could run games in prisons as
Mm,
well, because you look at a lot of guys in there, they're there because of all the same reasons that we failed a lot of kids.
yeah. That is true. I think having games as an outlet and a lot of different places that we think it wouldn't fit would probably work really well for them. Like
Yeah.
having those avenues to learn skills that they normally wouldn't practice.
Mark says, getting into prison easy, getting out that's harder. I just want to go for the day. I don't want to go for I don't want to do anything that gets me there
I
long term.
I just want to go for a few hours and play a
Yeah,
game with some folks, not
exactly.
stay there.
Yeah, and people using role playing games for addiction counseling, stuff like that, because
Yeah.
uh, most people don't realize that the best way out of addiction is to find a replacement, a healthy replacement. Um,
Yeah,
that
it's
that's why AA works the way it does. It isn't that AA has gotten you out of drinking. You have replaced that activity with AA.
yes. I find that real interesting because when we first started, we had a lot of referrals for kids who had video game addiction. Um, and they were looking for like the parents would hear that we're using gaming in group therapy or individual therapy, and they would want us to work with them to try and replace the video game addiction with something else, something more
Yeah,
positive. And it was really interesting work.
yeah. I mean, how many people are addicted to these? And it's funny
Yeah.
because when I go to the high schools, or when I talk to kids. I find that there's a lot of Gen Z that, because they've legit grown up with these in their face
Yeah.
or a tablet or something, more than Gen X or millennials. No matter how much both of them claim that they, grew up with you grew up with technology. There's a big difference
Yeah.
in how millennials and Gen X grew up with it than how Gen Z has grown up with it. But I'm finding that in their teenage years, there's a lot of Gen Z that just want to put tech down and go do something analog, because
Yeah.
this this is draining. It's like, oh, I've seen that
Yeah, it
video
makes you
before.
tired.
Yeah,
All the eye strain and uh all that blue light you're looking at. It also gives you sleeping problems too, you know?
yeah, and I mean, I'll be honest, I have to get better about it, because
We all do.
yeah. But it's actually, kind of warms my heart when I see a group of teenagers, and a good portion of them are like, yeah, I just really want to go camping and get away from, social media for the weekend. And I'm like, oh my god,
You know,
like,
I have a 10-year-old, and whenever he's like, I want to go outside, I'm like, yes.
like,
Yes, we're not staying inside and playing video games all day. This is a
exactly,
win.
yeah. So stuff like that's great. So we got a question in the chat. It says, I
Mhm.
have a friend whose son is autistic in a way that presents as physically and verbally combative. How would
Mhm.
I approach using Venture Society or other therapeutic RPG tools with an individual who's predisposed to being combative?
So when we first started, we saw a lot of violent clients, physically aggressive, and it's hard sometimes to work with clients like that when putting them into a group, because you have to have trust, right? Trust that something like that might not happen. Um, but in Venture Society, one of the ways we could work on reducing those actions of like violence or aggression in ways is by presenting adventures and running adventures and linking adventures together that would work on creative ways to solve problems, right? We don't want to solve a problem by being aggressive, but how do we solve that problem? And what is a way that we can do it, and making sure that we're giving positive reinforcement, right? So the way we create that positive reinforcement is like the venture points. We will award venture points for doing a good thing, right? Where and later you can then celebrate it yourself by bringing something to your character or to the world that you want to see, like reinforcing positive behavior.
Yeah, in society, we're really bad at doing that.
Yeah.
Um, when you got into, well, actually, what got you into doing the therapy stuff?
So I'm actually not a therapist myself. I
Hmm.
help co-facilitate
Yeah.
groups, and my business partner Brian, he had a few years before we started the company was coming to me and like consulting with me for like, hey, I'm working with this kid and he kind of likes games. I'm looking for a game that can do this. And I would be like, oh, try this game. Try, you're looking for something with spatial reasoning. Try this game. Looking to work on this. Try that game. See if that helps. And slowly we started talking about, how how much games are helping some of the kids that he's working with. And we started talking about it more and more. And one day we just said, why don't we just start a company that just does this? Like this is we talk about it so much that we should just make this a business meeting and just start doing it. And one day that happened. We
Nice.
said, I really enjoy helping kids and working with kids. and I really enjoy gaming, and I want to bring more joy in the world by through the means of gaming.
So I know that you kind of covered that you'd run into Chris and Heather, and you would chat about doing a game. So what really made you want to go down the path of making Venture Society or something along those lines?
So when I've probably what I don't even know how long it's been now. I started going to a convention called Metatopia. It was the first convention I've ever been to, and a gaming convention. And that convention itself was the design part. It was all about the business of making games.
Yeah,
And I didn't really know what I was stepping into, when I went to it, but I fell in love. The whole game design piece, like I realized I was already doing that, like I was already making games and I didn't realize that I was doing it. And I really liked working with kids and really liked helping people. And when we started the company, we saw that there was a big need for games that could work on building up your social skills, that building up like some games will say like it's meant to do a certain thing, but it's never actually doing it, right? We're never seeing the social skills come into play because if we're playing D&D, I'm going to smash it with a sword instead of saying, "Hey, uh, is there something wrong here? Why are you so mad?" Instead of saying that, we'll hit it with a sword and hope it stops being mad because it's probably going to be dead.
yeah,
Um, but we wanted to create a space where we could work on like identities, right? Like who are we? Have a place where we could name feelings and make it socially acceptable to do those things because none of the games that we were playing had those things in it. We had to interject things along the way for them to be in the game instead of it naturally being in the game and naturally being a part of the play. And like about what I was saying in the beginning is like how kids learn through their play. The best way to facilitate like working on these different goals is to do it through play and to do it in a way where it doesn't feel like it's forced. It doesn't feel uh like a therapy game. I don't know if you've ever seen the therapy game, but there's literally a game called the Ungame.
I hadn't seen that
it
one.
it's it's not a game, it's just prompts, right? And if I went to therapy and someone put that on a table and was like, "We're going to play a game for therapy today, and this is what we're going to do," I'd be like, I don't want to do this. Like this is not fun and not engaging, and it's not something I would like to do. um we wanted to make sure it was something fun, and we wanted to make sure that we could help the build skills. Like we're very skill focused, and we wanted to make sure that those skills weren't uh, the normal skills you would see in a role playing game. We wanted to make sure that there were things that would help.
Nice. Um, Somebody said the Ungame came out in the '70s, and you'll find it at every thrift store ever.
That's the truth.
I'll be honest, I have never seen it, so
You never want to.
never want to.
That's why they're in the thrift stores.
Yeah. Um, so I'm gonna take a little quick diversion because we get with someone on Patreon um, always has us ask this just because he finds it entertaining. Tacos or hot dogs?
Tacos. Like, no.
I'm always torn because I do love both. They're probably my
Yeah,
two favorite foods.
tacos 100%. If I had a choice, uh, it would definitely be tacos. But if you made a hot dog taco somehow,
See
maybe,
that's been kind of a running joke is hot dogs could be tacos. It's just
yeah,
instead of a hard shell, you've got or a soft shell, you got a fluffy shell, and instead of like a ground beef or a strip beef, I mean technically a hot dog I guess is like uber ground meat beef into a casing.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. It's mushed down,
Yeah,
ground so much that it's almost mush.
exactly. It's a instead of a ground meat, you get pate in a tube.
Yeah, that just sounds awful.
The and I've said this a few times. My favorite things with tacos is you can go anywhere and you're gonna get kind of a similar experience most anywhere you go. No matter you find any city in the U.S., you'll find a taco truck, and most of your experience is going to be fairly similar, which is awesome because you're like, hey, I can hit up a taco truck. Some are going to be better than others, and there people put a
Yeah.
little twist on them. But like hot dogs, every city you go to has a different hot dog.
Yeah, that's true. Hot dogs can be creative at times. There's a place here in Jersey. I don't remember the name of it, but their whole thing is hot dogs. Like, and they have so many different kinds, different
Yeah.
types of meat in them. It's
Oh yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it's like people have gotten really creative with hot dogs. Like, people talk about like New York style versus Chicago style pizza, and then people start realizing that, oh, there's a Cleveland style and there's a Detroit style and there's a Kansas
Yeah,
City pizza. But like hot dogs, like we've got a Seattle dog, there's a Chicago dog, you've got a Coney Island dog, you've got a
yeah,
New York style. It's like Destination Dogs in New Brunswick is what
yes, that is it. That is the place.
Lackey says he'll be going there in a month because Lackey's going to be going to New York City Comic Con,
Oh, nice.
and I would love to go to New York City Comic Con one of these days. Um, don't get on
It's a
pizza.
fun
We just had
experience.
pizza the other day. We ended up talking about pizza a bunch, but that was a whole different way that got us in. It wasn't even hot dogs and tacos that got us into there. I mean, I guess you can get a taco pizza.
Yeah, you
I
could.
haven't had one
I've
of
seen
those
it.
in ages. Yeah, Pizza Hut used to sell them.
Oh yeah,
So, out of all RPGs that you've played, what
hmm
has been your favorite?
my favorite. I think Kids on Brooms is my favorite right now.
Interesting.
Um,
I like that one.
my favorite changes a lot. Depends on. I guess sometimes it changes based on who I'm playing with too, and if they're really into that style of play. But Kids on Brooms, I really enjoy running it and I really enjoy playing it. It gels with me really well.
Here we've got a copy of Kids on Brooms in the library, and I like that there's some cool stuff coming out based on that Kids on Bikes system because it's a really fun
Yeah,
little system.
yeah.
Uh, Somebody that made a game local. Well, they made a couple graphic novels. What is it? Oh
Die?
no no no.
Oh.
Junior Braves of the Apocalypse.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I have a copy of it. I haven't played it yet, but it looks really
So
fun.
read the graphic novels. They're a great little story. I love them to death. And when I read the first one, I went to him. I said, "Hey, you guys need to turn this into a role playing game." And like the next time I saw him, I was like, "Hey, have you thought about that?" And they go, "Yeah, about that. We can't say anything, but uh, keep an eye out." And then I hadn't seen him in a few months, and he sent me a message. He was like, "Hey, our game's coming out soon." I was super excited that I ran into him at an event, and I was talking with somebody, and he calls my name out. I look over, and I was like, and he's got a copy, and he and the other creator signed it and said, "Hey, we want to make sure that a copy of this goes in the library." And I love the story. The stories are great. Um, it, they're really simple, short reads, but there's a few moments that just rip your heart out. You're like, oh, like one of the kids, seeing his parents. um,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, geez. Uh, oh, my wife said we also just got a copy of Magical Kitty Save the Day for the library. Um,
Nice.
Also aimed at non-combative younger players. Oh no, that was Lackey that said that from Atlas Games. So I have not played Magical Kitties yet, but yeah,
I haven't either.
it is another one that I really need to take all of our kid-oriented games and put them together in a section because I I end up pointing people to the direction let's see, it's Babes in the Woods, Little Wizards. Little Wizards is really good. I like that game a lot. There's so many that are coming out. Um,
I really enjoy seeing these kids games starting to come out more and more now.
yeah,
There's not enough for younger audiences to get into role playing games and play with their family, because I think that's really important, to play with your parents, different things,
it
or your
is.
family, whoever your family is.
Yeah, and if you can get them into these great storytelling mechanics at a younger age, it's good for them. Yeah, on all because one, they get more creative, but two, they get you start teaching them how to do public speaking. And
Yeah.
do get better at all the little things in school. It was funny yesterday. I was at the library doing a little talk on role playing games, and then ended up playing with a father and son. So the son had played in one virtual game. He was just given a character, and was like, "Hey, this is what role playing is." And so we sat down, we made characters, and it was funny because the son rolled, like, it was for D&D, and he rolled like all tens for all his stats. I was like, I've never seen somebody roll the most generic character ever. It was like he rolled like 10, 16, 10, 10, 10, 10. It was like he rolled five sets of 10. And I was like, what are the odds of this? And this was with 46 drop one, or drop the
Yeah.
lowest, and then his dad was over there like 16, 15, 14. I think he had like two. Just his dad had like superhero, but they actually had a lot of fun. And the dad was like, "Hey, my daughter's 8, and I would love." He goes, "I think this is a little more than what she could get into." I was like, "Great! There's a ton of little kids games, or games that are targeted at that 8 to 10 year range, and that
Yeah.
are still can be enough fun for some older kids to play in." And I showed him a couple that we had, and then dad and son, after we played, went and checked out some D&D books from the library, and he says, "Hey, I'm going to be hitting you up for some other games to help with the family." And I was like, "Awesome!" And I love seeing that. Family that plays
Yeah.
together stays together.
Yeah, that's the truth. I really enjoy seeing families get into gaming, and watching kids play with their families and their parents, and that fun and that creativity you get out of that.
Yeah, Lackey said he'd reach for the excellence from ninth level because they've put out a bunch of fun little games based upon the polymorph system. Was it the Cubicle Wizards, which I can't wait to play that.
Business Wizards, right?
Business Wizards, yeah.
Yeah, Business Wizards.
I need to. Yeah, I really, really want to sit down and get into that one because I would like to run that as a one shot at events because it just the whole concept of it makes me giggle. But the polymorph system is straightforward enough to anybody can pick it up quickly.
Yeah, I really find it's a really fun con game. Uh, it the one shots are very easy to play in a polymorph game, and for to have one fun sit down of play, you can really teach it and learn it in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, they are what I call perfect palate cleansers.
Yeah.
Because you've been playing a game for a while, or you've played some games. Like, going from vampire, you're like, okay, we've played a bunch of vampire. My group's kind of tired of it, or like we're really getting drained. Like, hey, here, play business wizards. I have a whole long list of great games that are great for one shots or that palate cleanser thing.
Yeah, those, or even the game to run when you're like, I'm just not into running this tonight. Can we play this instead? I
Yeah,
need a change of tone.
yeah. Or the night where you have you've got four players and two don't show up because some
Yeah,
reason or another, and you're like, hey, let's try this,
let's
and
try Savage Sisters where we all can be the take turns being the GM.
that one's an interesting one as well. That's one that you don't want to necessarily run as a one shot at a convention though.
I did do it at a
Yeah,
convention. I had a lot of fun doing it.
yeah. It's you got to be careful with you because if you're running with a bunch of people that have like never like it's their first experience with role playing games.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
yeah,
So
no,
it can be a lot of fun at a convention because you don't know who you're sitting at the table with. You just want to make sure that they've all got some experience with RPGs first because that's a
yeah.
rough one to throw someone in at.
Well, you know,
But
it
it's
is
super fun.
that GM-less or GM full like mechanic for in a game can turn people away from it because they don't understand what to do, and I get that. But
Yeah.
I love them so much, especially when
Oh yeah.
someone's never ran a game and they find out they're a GM playing a game like that.
Yeah. Oh, and stuff like that's great, especially you have somebody that's played 4 or 5 times, and you can see that they maybe have that spark to be a GM. Hey,
Yeah,
let's try it. We're going to take a break from this system or from this campaign. We're going to play this, and then okay, hey, it's your turn to be the GM. And they're like, what? And then then you can watch the panic because that can be fun too. But you can also
yeah,
see if that spark really is there and watch them, just light up and go, oh, hey, I can move the story the direction that I want to go. And I always love watching people that I know are going to be good GM for like the first time, and they'll be panicked, but you're watching them get excited about the concepts of I can do this or I can do this, and
yeah.
sitting down with them
Like
is like,
watching everything just click into
yeah.
place.
They're like, oh, this is way more fun than playing. I'm like, yes, we have a new GM,
A new one. We've converted another player.
and then it's funny because a lot of us we complain like, oh, I'm the forever GM, but it's so weird to go back to being the player after you've been the GM so much,
You
because you're
know,
like, I know so much about the game, and I don't want to mess up this other player's game. So you're kind of walking on eggshells as a player, and then sometimes you're like, you know what, F it, I'm just gonna go off the rails. I want to see where they go with me.
I I was a game master, a forever game master for a very long time. And when my first convention game, I sat down, I made a character, and like I haven't played as a player since probably I was 13. So I I'm I'm sitting down and playing, and I don't know how to be a player, and my character dies because I'm doing things that I'm like, this is so much fun to do crazy things that no one ever does in my. Oh, this is why they don't do it. You die.
I love watching the shock on people's faces because it had been ages since I had played, and then especially starting the library, I do lots of one shots, and it's funny because once you start doing one shots, because there's different types of one shots. Because if you're working for a publisher, you're trying to do one shots that highlight your system and the
Yeah.
world, and be like, hey, check this out. But like the one shots we do, we're just trying to get people excited about playing role
Yeah.
playing games.
Hmm.
So we do this kind of broad spectrum style one shot. It's very very family friendly. It, we want to make it as inviting as possible, but with that, I go back and as a GM trying to go, oh, I'm gonna plan out a game. Oh, I gotta think more than 4 hours deep. So it's hilarious. I've all of my tools to be a a campaign GM have gotten really rusty, and trying to brush those off at the same time I'm trying to brush off all my tools to be a player as well.
I started streaming on Twitch with a group of people who use gaming in their professional lives. And when I started doing that, I was playing as a player again, and I found so much joy doing that. And then I just recently started running, well, actually not near the end of this campaign of Avatar Legends, uh, and running it, and I was like, wow, like I forgot what it was like to like run a long form campaign. Like I was getting, I like that rustiness you get from being a player for a while.
Yeah, because now you've got to think like, okay, if I do this, what will that mean to my character 2 or 3 games from now, or days, or from now? Because it's kind of hilarious that, especially with one shots, Dungeon Crawl Classics, you start off, you get luck, and you can spend those luck points. Well, in a one
Yeah,
shot, you just gotta dump them all. But if you're gonna
yeah.
play in a campaign, you're like, if I do this, I'm gonna blow a lot of luck, and I'm probably gonna, ooh,
But that's the fun part of the one
yeah,
shot. You get to
yeah,
do the
exactly,
things that you like get right into it.
absolutely, and it is because I see people that have played a bunch, and they come in and they sit down in the one shots, and they just throw all caution to the wind, and it's funny because they may be sitting at a table with somebody that's never played before, and then I'll go, if you're gonna play, other games, remember this playing here is a little different than playing, with your friends in a long term campaign. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh yeah, and then like they kind of like that explains why this guy is playing so reckless.
And I really enjoy seeing that happen at a table at a con, like in a smaller setting,
Yeah,
one shots,
I do a lot of Star Wars one shots, and it's funny to see the people just like, F it, I'm gonna stir the pot with the Empire. I don't care. And you wouldn't necessarily do that in a long term campaign because
No,
now you have the Empire just crashing down
never.
on you, and it's like, if we survive this one shot, great. If not, I have stupid stirring the pot stories. What's the
Yeah.
name of the group that you're gaming with?
It's Cast Gamers, CASTT Gamers. You can find us on Twitch. We stream Friday nights, Sunday nights, and some Thursdays. We have different shows that we have on. There is Friday nights is usually at 9:30 ish. Sometimes we start a little later, Eastern, and we run different campaigns of different games for 12 sessions, and then we do a debrief, and we talk about how we would use the game in our professional lives.
Nice. Is it like writing, the how to write on your resume that you play D&D?
Yeah, in a way, I guess it is.
Have you seen
Yeah.
that? Have you seen that? Was a little meme or something going around. It's like how to add D&D to your resume. It's like I host a weekly mentoring, and it just goes on. It's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I can imagine because in the work that I do, I do interviews with people who do enjoy role playing games, and sometimes people like tailor their resumes for like a job. So like seeing how people try to insert their gamers into the resume for like a therapist position is really funny.
Here it is. Met with coworkers twice weekly, creatively and oh, met with coworkers for twice weekly creativity and conflict resolution exercises.
Yep.
Gained necessary experience that promoted character and skill growth. Learned to quickly assess the proper tools for resolution solutions. No need to mention that the preferred methods of conflict resolution involve long swords and sneak attacks.
That's the best right there. If I would have read that, and anyone watching, if you're applying at gaming approaches, if you put something like that in your resume, you're getting. I'm definitely reading it. We're gonna have an interview.
Nice. Yeah, I get to see where I'm working now. I get to see resumes from time to time, and they can be fairly entertaining. And I've worked at places in the past where you get resumes. I'm like, did you just copy and paste most of this off the internet?
Yeah, I see that a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I remember working for a security company and doing interviews for people coming in for security, and just looking, going, I really hope that you own, at least a nice pair of jeans and a polo shirt. Why did you come in cut off BDU pants, boots, and a
Yeah.
T-shirt that says "F to police"? You're like, you don't want this job, do you?
Nope.
That's a whole nother fun, entertaining place to go. Where so, where are you hoping to take Venture Society in the future?
So right now, we have a bunch of pre-written stuff, but we're hoping that we can start making more adventures, like little pocket, like a small zine like book that will be like more adventures that focus on different types of things to work on with children. So like maybe uh, a section that's mostly on adventures about grief and dealing with that. Maybe things that are just all about building a certain skill, like empathy and like how to learn to recognize it or to use empathy. Things like that are definitely down the line of what we were talking about, and we want to add some more fun things later on, that just give more tools for a parent to be able to let the kids have fun at the table, like having puzzles that we can create that could be a part of a package as well.
Do you encourage the families to continue playing at home? Because
Yes.
yeah,
So one of the one of the
this is something
reasons,
I've talked to a lot of therapists about, that they're like, oh, I hadn't really thought of that, and because they're so focused on working with the kids and gathering as much information and doing as much work as they can, they've, for lack of a better, they've kind of forgotten that the family's there and can continue doing stuff
yeah,
at home.
one of our big things is that in New Jersey, I'm sure in other states too, they have what's called the wraparound approach, which is where the kid is everyone that's working with the kid is working on a goal. So if it's the therapist, the teacher, the parent, they're all working towards the same goal to achieve. And we wanted this game to be able to be used like that. That's why we have adventures that are more therapy focused or more education focused. And we wanted it so that everyone can play and everyone can show um, learning can be fun, and therapy can be fun, and it's okay to play with mom and dad.
No, yeah, and there's just so much that can take place at home, and it it brings the parents in, because the parents, they want to be part, but they don't necessarily know what to do.
Yeah.
And I find that if you can figure out how to get them to continue doing the role playing at home, doesn't even have to be the same game, just doing something that they can interact and build those relationships.
Yeah. I think that's really important. We encourage parents all the time to, try playing a game with your kids. Like if you find something that you both can enjoy and sit down and play it. Whether you're working on something at home or not, just playing with them will help with, especially with behaviors. Trying to correct negative behaviors in the home, creating a better relationship with your children.
Yeah, and uh, it's we've gotten so many parents that I, I I feel like we've gotten to the extremes of what people think parents used to be, and everybody either wants to go to that extreme or they want to be friends. And it's like there's a big area here in the middle. You don't have to be
Yeah,
the extreme mommy
yeah.
dearest parent,
You don't
and
have to be
yeah,
strict, and
yeah,
you don't have to be their best friend. But
yeah, because both those are
uh,
kind of bad.
yeah, it is good to be somewhere in
Yeah,
that middle
yeah,
ground.
yeah. Have that relationship with them so that they want you in their life, and at the
Yeah,
same time still being able to step away and discipline as need.
yeah,
Let them know, like, hey, I love you, but I'm in charge.
yeah. Sometimes that's a hard balance.
Yeah. Hopefully, they can figure it out that mom and dad kind of know best ish.
In most cases. Yeah.
What was a challenge you encountered moving from combat games to storytelling non-combat games, in play or in design?
A challenge. So I I do like more narrative focused gaming. Um, and for the design piece of it, I fell in line with it pretty quick because I enjoy it so much. I like the narrative focused stuff, but it was a challenge in a way that there's not too many games that are doing things like this. So I didn't have a lot of resources to look at and be like, how can I do it something like this? Uh didn't have the tools in ways that could help me design it in a way that would be familiar for other people. So I had to be creative about how, like, sneaky, um, in a way, about being, how do I word this? Like being a teacher, right? How can I, how can I teach you something that you may not want to learn, but make it fun for you so that you will do it? It's
That
a challenge.
it is. I like that you equate it to, because you are teaching, in
Yeah.
no matter how much people like, well, you're in therapy. I was like, but therapy, you still are, you're teaching, coping mechanisms. You're
Yeah.
teaching all kinds of different
You're
little
teaching
things.
skills. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're teaching all the non fundamentals that we need to deal with life.
The things that we sometimes forget to, like, pass down to the younger audiences, the younger uh, people in our lives.
Yeah,
And it's never intentional. It's always, maybe it's something we never learned.
yeah. Or like you're working with kids on the spectrum, so parents just may not have the tools
Yeah.
to teach them, because it's something thoroughly outside of their tool set,
Yeah. It sometimes it could be a struggle.
and the struggle is real.
That's the truth.
Let's see, how many days left do we have on your guys' Kickstarter?
I think we have, let's see, 18 more days to go. We are at 77% funded right now.
You guys are so
Uh,
close, and
I know.
it's gonna suck, because it's gonna be like every other Kickstarter. You're gonna be sitting at that 77%, and then it'll be like 36 hours to go. Bam, you'll be
Yeah.
130%. You're like,
I I tell people all the time, Kickstarter is so stressful.
it,
It
yeah,
If you don't get funded like right away, it is like this daunting thing that is just sitting there.
yeah. I love all the people, like, they funded in 28 minutes. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, you're. your issues are from here on out are going to be, oh God, how do we deal with the added? We went over what we thought we would get,
Yeah.
and then the everybody else that does funds that last few hours. They're just like, oh God, what do I need to do to change this? And I've heard from so many creators who are like, God, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't do it wrong. I'm like, don't think of any of that until the campaign's over. They're like, but
That's the
we're
truth.
so far away. And I'm like, you're at 50%. That's not nearly as far as you think it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really not that far. It just feels that way, especially when you hit the 2 week slump in the middle of the campaign,
Yes.
and and people are not don't realize that that's a thing until they run a Kickstarter and they're like, oh God, oh why do we feel like we're almost plateauing?
And I we still get it from people that have run 10 or
Yeah,
15,
of
and they're
course.
just like, I don't get it. Like, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I get a Kickstarter to go that first day? I'm like, sometimes it's just luck of the draw. A bunch of people just happened to be on the 13th of the month and saw this game that
Yep.
launches, and they all backed it. And
Yeah.
you went on the 15th when a lot more people got paid, and maybe looking at stuff, but just nobody was on that day.
Yep. Or
Because
they
it
they
yeah,
saw they saw something else that grabbed their eye right before like yours came up on scrolling through Kickstarter.
that is a struggle, because we do a crowdfunding, we do news and crowdfunding on Mondays, and I'll be honest, your I so I try to focus on things that are in their first couple days and their last
Mhm.
couple days. So I think we missed the Monday when this launched. So
Mhm.
it's not been on my radar until I think Heather reached out to us and said, "Hey, because we've been trying to get Heather to come on. We talked to Chris before. I wanted to talk to Heather because uh, she does so much of the behind the scenes stuff that
Yeah.
designers, especially people running starting a company, or
Yeah.
they're doing a Kickstarter or whatever. They're like going to launch their first game. They need to hear everything that she's got to say."
Yeah. That's the truth.
There's so much insanity that goes on behind the scenes, and it's so funny because we talk to people all the time. They're like, you know, the getting the game done and getting the campaign started was the easy part.
Yeah. It
Sh-
really is.
Shipping
It's
books
all
out,
the other
doing,
stuff.
yeah, exactly. They were like, oh, I never want to do this again.
Yeah.
Um, and then some like, hey, I hated that part, but man, have I loved every other minute of it. And they go to conventions and they sell books and just see people get excited about this game, their thing that they made that's gonna be kicking around, and hopefully they share with.
Yeah.
What's the most
That
fun part of developing a game? That's a question that just popped up in the chat.
the most fun part of developing a game. I
I don't think we've ever asked anything like that before.
I just really enjoy just being creative, like thinking, how can we do this a way no one else has ever done it. Like that I get a lot of joy out of doing stuff like that. Like how can we change the game we're playing right now and insert this mechanic from over here and change it in a way where like all the players aren't going to be like, well, why are you changing my game? Making it fun.
Yeah, and that's hilarious. As someone that's GM for years, and we as GMs we make all kinds of little tweaks, and
Yeah.
I'll get the rules lawyer that sits down. And I remember in D&D 3 and 3.5, I made tons and tons of changes to the game, and somebody like, well, that's not how it goes. I'm like, well, I'm running the game. That's how it goes.
I make it very clear when when you sit down at a table
Yeah.
with me, probably not going to use the rules. I probably read half of them.
I and it was I am trying to get back to using the rules as written for D6 Star Wars, because they're actually really cool rules. But I had for years been running a very stripped down style, because for an event, the rules are kind of less important than getting
Yeah.
people excited about playing a role playing game. And somebody at an event played in a one shot, and then he went to like half price books, found the rules, and he came back. He was like, "Hey, I really love what you played." He goes, "But it's very different than the rules." He goes, "I want to play this way." He goes, "But can you just teach me the stuff that you did?" And then I just, I told him like, "Hey, I stripped all of this out, did all," and he was like,
Yeah.
"Hey," and which for a lot of one shots, just stripping out a lot of the excess stuff it
Yeah.
makes it great. Teaching people, it's like what I did with D&D 3 and 3.5. If you're a new player, we don't go over feats at all. And it's like, hey, you're level 5. You get 3 feats now. And they start looking through the book. They're like, oh, hey, this one will work great for my character because they now understand how
How to
the
play.
mechanic. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up because I see that so much in games, and one of the things I wanted to put in the Venture Society is a way to try to combat that. So like when you create your character, you're creating which animal you're playing, what's a helpful thing you do, and what's an item that you carry with you. But we don't go directly into like, well, what is your class, right?
Yeah.
What we do is we do uh like a practice role play, and depending on how you solve your actions in that role play, that's how you're decided like if you're a protector, a talker, or a mover, because based off how you play, that's who you're going to be. And that instead of choosing something that is going to be the opposite because you're just like, oh, I think that sounds cool, that's but if it's not how you're going to play, um it kind of creates this bad experience sometimes, you know.
Let's see. Lackey said, video games do this with their tutorials, introducing new mechanics one at a time. And yeah, it is a great way to do it. And I probably, when I was modifying third ed, probably playing so many RPGs in video games, I probably got the idea from that.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I thought I was like super super smart for years, and then I was like, I bet other people have been doing this.
It's I think it's important to take our favorite parts of things and put it into uh, other games. I think it creates more joy because if you can have fun running it, your players are going to have more fun playing it.
Well, and I jokingly say that people in the library we work as RPG sommeliers because we'll get people that come in that have never played, but they're maybe interested or they've played D&D a couple times and they're like, I want to play something else. We ask them, what's your favorite book? What's your favorite movie? Because if I can get the right game in their hands, they're going to get excited to play. Because I run
Yeah.
into people all the time like, hey, I've played D&D a couple times. I'm not really into the fantasy thing. And they're like, oh, do you want to play sci-fi? Do you want to play
Yeah.
horror? And I remember saying that to somebody. They go, "There's horror role playing games." It just like lights up, and they just go over and like go through. It's like they're like, "Oh my god!" They were like, "Oh, I cannot wait to run this." And this is somebody that's only played a couple of games, and all of a sudden it just lights up, and they're like, "I want to tell scary stories and get players interacting." I'm like, done. Here's a whole line of things to do. Introduce them to something like Dread, where
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I just you get a good storyteller that can just bring them in and just create that suspenseful
Yeah.
eeriness, and it's getting the right things. And it's like you're saying, if you can get the right mechanics into people's hands, you can get the right character into people's hands, they're going to be more excited to come play. Nobody wants to, play in a campaign. They're like, oh, yay, we need a cleric. Fine, I'll play a cleric
Yeah.
again. And then they're oh, hey, I've got pizza that's going to be delivered in an hour and a half. I can't make it. They're like, what kind of excuse is that? Like, yeah, yeah. I got a freckle on my arm that needs to be looked at by the doctor tomorrow. Uh, you get the bad excuses because they don't
Yep.
want to play anymore because they're playing the wrong character or they're playing the
Yep.
wrong
They're
game.
not having
Yeah,
fun
yeah,
because they don't know. Sometimes you don't know as a player, especially in a game you've never played before,
yeah,
of what anything is and how you would want to play, or how what is fun for you in a game like this.
No, I like that introductory thing that you're talking about with your game is because you can try to help match a character.
Yeah.
Now, with that, you play as a character that matches you well. Sometimes it's also fun to kind of, hey, why don't you try something different? Because I do that with I used to do that with gaming groups I had all the time. Like, okay, we're gonna play a little something a little different. I made characters for everybody, pass them out. They're like, sweet, I've never played a barbarian before. And the next player like, neither have I. Neither have I. Like, yes, all five of you are going to be playing barbarians this
Yep.
game. They're like, but I've never played a barbarian. This is going to be interesting.
Yep.
And it gets them out of their comfort
Their
zone of
comfort. Yeah.
yeah, because they know every feat for the rogue that hey, if
Yeah,
I
it
do
makes it.
this and this and I mix these classes and I take this prestige thing over here and if I get this magical weapon I can be unstoppable. Well,
it
you don't
it
know.
brings
Yeah,
you it brings you back to the moment when you were learning all of that to begin with,
yeah.
and it creates creativity, instantly in someone again, just by changing a role they play.
Yeah, and I've had pushback doing that a couple times. Like, oh,
I
I really
bet.
don't want to do this, but for the most part, everybody, I by the end of the first session of that, are like, man, this is like so different. I'd forgotten about all these different pieces of the game. Like, I know all the monsters still because I've memorized the monster manual, but I don't know how I can go after them with a barbarian because I'm used to playing a sorcerer. And
Yeah.
my everything's flipped upside down. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then they're
I
like,
think.
"How do we do healing?" Well, that'll be interesting because your options are run back to town or carry lots of healing potions. They're like, "Great, I got 1,000 gold pieces." Excuse me, sir. How much will 1,000 gold pieces buy me in a rack of healing potions?
Yeah.
He's running
Can I
around with his
just buy
backpack
this
full of
floor out?
yeah. He's got a camel pack with healing
Yeah.
potions in him. He's like, suck down the straw, go back into combat. But there's so many awesome, fun things mechanically you can do, and they're endless. And you talked about taking mechanics of things you love, and I love that mechanics you can't trademark them, you can't copyright
Nope.
mechanics. So
Yeah.
technically somebody could take all of the things out of D&D 5e, just rename them, and put the game out, and there's
And
nothing Wizards could do.
definitely been done already.
Yes. And I tell that to people who are like, couldn't Wizards sue them? I was like, only if they named everything the same.
Yeah.
That's why Games Workshop with Warhammer, they no longer have the Imperial Guard because that's a name they can't trademark. So they're I forget the Astrum Materialis or something like that. It's a name that they could trademark.
Yeah.
They've renamed everything except for Space Marines because everybody knows Space Marines,
Yeah.
and they have
It's
tried to
iconic.
trademark the name. And they did the same thing with their paints because they used to have like bone white. Well, they can't trademark bone white, so it's now I forget the name of it, but they renamed all of their
So
paints
yeah.
so that they could so they could copyright the names, which
I,
I
for
find
me, that
hilarious.
doesn't make any sense. A paint. I want to know. I want to know I'm getting white, not
Yeah, well, and
uh.
that's the thing is they want you to not know what color white that is that's in your jar, so you can't
Yeah.
go over to Vallejo or oh geez, the other army painter.
Army
Yeah,
painter. That's
yeah,
yeah.
with their game color stuff.
Yeah.
And when I was painting miniatures, my wife thought it was hilarious because she'd been telling me for years, like they're just watered down acrylics, and so I finally went one day and made my own paints for painting armies. And she's like, "Yeah, I've been telling you to do this for years." I was like, "Oh, leave me be."
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody brought up in the chat Nolan Oil. It's like, Nolan Oil. It's just a wash, uh,
Yep.
and it's just a like what color brownish color is that? I don't know. It's Nolan oil. And it's funny because I've made my own washes. So I've made black. I've got the the old Devlin mud, which I don't think they make anymore. That everybody used on everything. I actually figured that color out and made it with made up my own version of it. And I've got a giant you know uh,
Like,
two
yeah,
pint
like a big
jar of it.
old thing of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy painting minis. I've always been like a creative person, so and I draw a lot, and that painting minis for some reason just like I found so much joy doing it,
Yes.
learning all the techniques.
Later today, I'm going to be downstairs in my office reorganizing one section because I want to start doing painting for our Twitch channel. And
Nice.
I'm going to do some coins and minis and stuff. And we've got some awesome minis we've gotten from Lethal Shadows.
Oh
And
wow.
they'll they said once I start painting these, and they're doing their own paints and everything as well. They're local to us, and he said, once you start painting these, let him know. He'll start hooking me up with some more models as well. And some of their
That's
models
cool.
are
Yeah.
just they're really
Wow,
stunning.
really nice looking.
Yeah, and they're really cool stuff.
They look like
And
they're really detailed.
they are, and they even do other resin colors. So depending on what it is,
I
need
also
to.
like that they're not super tiny.
Yeah. They've got massive ones.
Yeah.
Is a Cthulhu that I've got to put together, and that's just his
Nice.
body. I mean, he's huge. I mean, his head is.
Yeah, that's cool.
Super excited I really want to get him painted up soon. So that is going to be my job later days. Get my painting station set back up. It's going to be a nightmare moving my air compressor downstairs.
It's always a nightmare changing stations.
Yeah, well, my air compressor's been sitting upstairs for years unused because I've not been painting for a while. So I know my first handful of episodes painting are just going to be horrible. I'm glad I know how to strip minis because it's been a while.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that you would like to talk about before we wrap the day up? Because we've been going for pushing 2 hours now.
I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, we've got
Uh,
an hour and 40 minutes already.
you know, I did really enjoy this conversation. It, I like your style of interviewing, more like having a conversation rather than asking me a bunch of questions to answer just about the game, and it made things very easy.
Yeah, and somebody in the chat says talking about your passions is fun, and it
Yeah.
is. I grew up. I mean, my first nerdy thing outside of comic books was D&D. And if you think about role playing games, we've been doing it long before we ever played. We play
Yeah.
make believe.
Yep.
I'm a fireman. Cops and robbers. All of that's LARPing at its
Yeah.
and you think even if you break it down to it's just most basic. You're sitting there telling scary stories at a campfire is I kind of role playing because you're telling a
Yeah.
scary story and everybody there is kind of like why they're creeped out and scared by it is because they're putting themselves into that story.
Yeah.
Now we just do it with a framework of rules and giving those characters, giving those the player or the listeners, we turn them into players, give them some agency within the story so that they can help us shape it. And
Yeah.
then we
I
and then we
love it
find we
because
finally introduce dice to just mess up everything.
to make to make it more fun.
Absolutely, I love throwing. I tell people all the time, and I get pushback from some people. I tell GMs was like, your dice don't matter. The
Yeah.
players do because you're setting up the story, you're setting up the key points, and the players are filling everything in. I always feel bad when I get on a hot streak as a GM, and then I kind of ruin the game session because, oh look, I rolled yet another 20. Like,
Yeah,
hey
I
guys.
I I really do enjoy running games where I don't have to roll dice. Just my players, because I don't want to feel like I'm making it hard on you as a player, because we're
Yeah,
playing this game together. It's not. I also don't want it to be adversarial. I want it to
yeah,
be us collaborating to tell a story, and I want to tell the best story we can.
yeah. Because the vast majority of role playing games are not the players versus the GM. Now it does get to come down to that to some
Yeah,
RPGs, like Paranoia. It's your friend computer and everybody is against each other and you.
yeah,
Your mission as a GM is to kill as many clones as possible. But that's just it's a fun take on playing in a different way. I know plenty of people that love like collaborative board games, but also love to play Paranoia, which is the antithesis of a collaborative board game.
yeah,
So it's great because there is an RPG out there for everyone. And it's just you finding the right one for the right person, finding the right group together, and then running into people like you that are doing awesome things and using games to help people that need that direction.
yeah. Thank you.
Oh, actually, quickly, where'd you guys get the art? Because looking at your guys' Kickstarter page, so um,
You cut out for a second. What was that?
oh, where did you guys get your art? Because looking at your Kickstarter page, I adore the art. It's so adorable and inviting.
The So the artist is the same person who did the art for what is the I can't believe I'm blanking out on this. Um, the same person who did it'll come to me, hopefully. His name is James Stowe.
Oh,
He
Sidekick Quest.
Yes.
Yeah, he lives
Uh,
right up the road from us.
that's funny. Um, so yeah, he did the art for it. So he also did a few other ninth levels projects. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
I didn't know he'd actually worked with Night Level. But sometimes you look at you get used to one project or one art style from them, and they do another project that you don't necessarily see.
Yeah, Meeple Party. That's what it was.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
he did the art for Meeple Party as well.
yeah. He's such a fun dude. And yeah, I love Sidekick Quest. That is such an adorable little game. I need to get a couple more copies of that to put in the library, so that because that's another fun like kids game, and it's a
Yeah,
fun take because you're not playing the heroes, you're playing the sidekicks, and you're going on a quest away from the main characters,
yeah,
which is such an adorable little idea.
yeah. It is fun.
Well, I think we're going to call it a day, and it has been a blast talking to you.
Yeah,
Um,
same here.
if at any time that you want to come back, feel free to reach out, and if you want to come and play this game or any other game on our stream, you are more than welcome to come do that. If you jump on our Discord, you can just say, "Hey, I want to do X, Y, or Z," and oh, it looks like our stream is going wonky.
Mm.
Uh, I've got the stream pulled up, and I'm like, I
The
look like
the,
I'm
jo- the
halfway through a
joys
stroke.
of streaming.
Yes. Well, so everyone that is tuned in, please check out Venture Society. If you don't pick up a copy for yourself, pick up a copy for to especially if you know a family that has a kids on the spectrum, this could be a great thing for them, or a therapist or psychiatrist counselor, that this could be something, a tool to put in their toolbox. I would definitely suggest. I love ninth level games. Chris and Heather and their whole team over there are awesome. We've chatted with Chris. Can't wait to chat with Heather here in the future. And Timothy, you've been a blast chatting as well.
Yeah, this was a good conversation.
And hope to meet you in person. Will you be at PAX Unplugged by any chance?
I will be.
Well, you'll have to come
I'm
down and say hi.
I'm hoping to do a presentation there as well. So
Nice.
hopefully we'll run into each other.
Yeah, I will probably spend almost my entire time at the library, except for when I run around the floor begging for funds and help. Please help the library continue to exist. But yeah, at any time, you will always be welcome to come hang out at the library and
Appreciate it.
do whatever you need. So thank you very much for coming, and thank you all for at home. And if you're watching this as video on demand, or if I've actually taken time to publish this on YouTube, which I should, um, their Kickstarter in the future is probably closed, but definitely check out stuff from Ninth Level Games. Check out Venture Society. It is an adorable little game with a great mission of what they're trying to do with it. And so, till next time, folks. The library is now closed.
Bye all.